Welcome back to The Explainer, guys. Today we are diving headfirst into the evolution of pure, unadulterated mechanical muscle. We're going to trace this completely spectacular history of human transport, looking at the raw power, the relentless engineering, and frankly, our deep, unwavering obsession with just going faster.
Seriously, how did we go from basically straddling a piece of wood to dropping the hammer in 1,800 horsepower hypercars? It's kind of hard to wrap your head around, right? We're going to look at that massive contrast, going from our humble, muscle-straining past to the absolute beasts ruling the asphalt as we look ahead to 2026. It is a massive leap in engineering, and the story of how we crossed that gap is just incredible.
So here's the roadmap. We're taking this sequentially. First, the first sparks of speed, then the birth of the motor car, followed by the mass production revolution. After that, we hit the modern era, from track to street, the hypercar era arriving, and finally, the future of extreme performance.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the first sparks of speed.
Back in 1815, a massive volcanic eruption at Mount Tambora literally caused a global climate crisis. Crops failed, and tragically, horses either died off or had to be eaten. It was out of that sheer desperate necessity in 1817 that Baron Karl von Drais invented his running machine. Fast forward a few decades, and we finally see the shift from human muscle to controlled explosions. By 1885, Daimler patents his revolutionary high-speed grandfather clock engine, which was hitting an insane for the time 900 RPM using a hot tube ignition.
But man, the raw physical reality of those early days was grueling. 50 pounds, that's exactly how much Karl von Drais's wooden machine, the Draisiana, weighed. Picture straddling 50 pounds of solid wood and metal and having to physically run on the dirt, pushing off the ground with your own 2 feet, just to hit maybe 5 miles per hour. It was heavy, exhausting work, but hey, it planted the seed for everything that followed.
Moving right along to Section 2, birth of the motor car.
Picture this. It's 1885, and Carl Benz has this brilliant vision. He takes wire wheels, basically off a bicycle, and pairs them with his own 4-stroke engine. But trying to harness that raw power, not exactly smooth sailing. The 1885 patent motor wagon was so tough to control at first that during a very public demonstration, he actually crashed the thing right into a brick wall. I mean, that is the bleeding edge of innovation right there. Messy, dangerous, and completely awesome.
But you can't talk about Benz without talking about Bertha Benz. People who knew her back then described her as having an aggressive nature. And honestly, thank goodness she did. She'd already sunk her dowry into her husband's failing iron construction company before they even tied the knot. And in 1888, fueled by that unapologetic drive, she took the motorwagon on the very first 194-kilometer cross-country road trip. She basically proved to the world that this noisy, chaotic machine was actually viable.
Which brings us to our next major gear shift, Section 3, the mass production revolution.
If there's one phrase that sums up the legendary ambition of Henry Ford, it's that he wanted to put the world on wheels. He wasn't interested in just building a niche toy for the rich. He wanted a machine that was accessible, totally reliable, and above all, affordable for the everyday working guy. And to pull that off, he had to completely rip up the manufacturing rulebook.
Before Ford, in the hand-built era, cars were literally built one at a time on benches. Teams of skilled mechanics painstakingly put them together from the chassis up. It was agonizingly slow. Compare that to Ford's assembly line era. He brought in standardized, interchangeable parts. He actually hauled the chassis along with heavy rope between workstations. By dialing in this massive, synchronized mechanical ballet, Ford completely changed the game, eventually pumping out a completed car every 10 seconds.
Let's actually break down the relentless muscle of that 1913 moving assembly line. First, you start with a bare chassis and you haul it using heavy-duty rope. Second, that chassis stops precisely at synchronized workstations. Third, sub-assembly lines feed the exact standardized parts to the guys on the line right when they need them. And finally, step 4, the completed Model T is driven right off the line under its own power. Just an absolute symphony of industrial might.
And the crazy part? Ford didn't just drop the price of the Model T down to a super affordable $260. He did something totally unheard of. He doubled his workers' minimum daily wage to $5. So overnight, he triggered both an industrial and a social revolution. The guys sweating it out building the cars could suddenly afford to buy the cars they were building.
All right, let's fast forward to the modern era, Section 4, from track to street. This is where the bleeding-edge tech crashes into the consumer market. You've got legends like BMW who literally linked their Formula One foundries with their street production lines. They actually built their F1 factory less than a kilometer away from their research and innovation center. They used the exact same sandcasting procedures to manufacture V8 engines for F1 as they did for their street-legal M models. High-revving, lightweight racing secrets, like carbon fiber reinforced plastic roofs, were getting transferred straight into daily drivers.
Okay, I have to totally geek out over this for a second. The Kinetic Energy Recovery System, KERS. This is where mechanical grip meets pure electrical wizardry. By capturing the massive energy generated under heavy braking, this system stores it up and lets the driver drop an instant 60-kilowatt electrical boost for 6.5 seconds. And the whole F1 system weighed under 40 kilograms. It basically turns standard combustion engines into these highly advanced electrified beasts, totally paving the way for the hybrid streetcars we see today.
Now for the main event. Section 5. The hypercar era arrives.
1,817 horsepower. Just let that number sink in. That is the sheer, terrifying power of the Hennessy Venom F5. We're talking about a 6.6-liter twin-turbo V8 combustion engine literally named Fury. It'll launch you from 0 to 60 in roughly 2.6 seconds. This isn't just a car, it's practically a guided land missile, proving that internal combustion can absolutely still go toe-to-toe with anything out there.
Think about the insane scale of human progress over a couple of centuries. We started with the 1817 Draisienne, a heavy wooden frame hitting 5 miles an hour, powered entirely by human sweat. Contrast that with the 2026 Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute, a carbon fiber engineering marvel packing 1,600 horsepower, engineered to slice through the air and target speeds north of 310 miles per hour. From 5 miles an hour to over 300, that is what relentless, unyielding ambition looks like.
Let's rattle off the specs of this ultra-exclusive hypercar elite. You've got the Koenigsegg Jesko, targeting that 310-plus mark with 1,600 horsepower. You've got the Aston Martin Valkyrie, delivering 1,160 horsepower of F1-style hybrid track dominance. The Lamborghini Revuelto keeping the glorious roaring V12 alive by bolting it to 3 electric motors. And of course, the McLaren P1, that 903 horsepower Holy Trinity track beast. These machines are taking hybrid tech and V12 engines and pushing the absolute razor-edge limits of physics.
So where do we go from here? Section 6, Future of Extreme Performance.
The future isn't just about bolting on bigger turbos and chasing raw power anymore. It's about ultra-smart software. We're looking at AI-driven systems crunching data in literally milliseconds to perfectly adjust traction, braking, and power delivery in real time, just to keep these monsters on the tarmac. We're seeing 3D printed materials and advanced carbon composites used to shave off every possible ounce of weight, and it's all about extreme exclusivity. Manufacturers are hand-picking their buyers for ultra-limited runs of maybe 50 to 300 highly tailored, totally individualized units.
Which leaves us with this final, pretty wild question. When we get to the point where AI systems are constantly crunching the data, monitoring the road, and perfectly controlling 1,800 horsepower for us, are we actually still taming the beast, or is the machine finally driving us? Think about that the next time you put your foot down. Thanks for joining me on this awesome explainer of the evolution of speed. Keep learning, keep pushing the limits, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.